Warriors have spent a ton of money, and they're going to spend a ton of money. They're already way into the tax. They haven't even re-signed Kevin Durant yet. They're committing to these guys for 3 more years, in Steph Curry's case, 5 years. How does their situation look going forward, and how much money are we talking about these guys are going to spend?
A lot, Brian. And I think the Andre Iguodala contract was kind of the domino where we saw how much this Warrior team was going to spend. You're looking at roughly $40 million right now. Let's say if they sign Nick Young to the full to the tax mid level, that number is going to go up to about $52 million. And where it's going to hurt is in years 3 and 4. Look at those numbers. That is the repeater tax number. $198 million, $222 million. That doesn't even count your salary right now. And Brian, as you know, I worked for that Nets organization. I paid a large tax bill one year, $90 million. And as I've said before, when you have to pay that number, you don't pay that in installments. That is one lump sum. They give you the wiring instructions. You pay it by July 7th. You hit the button, and that money goes right into the league's bank account. But can the Warriors do it? Of course they can do. I think it's just a matter of can you stomach the cost of it.
Bobby, that must be so fun to have an owner who can just write that check like that. I don't know what that's like. You know, we had to fight for our little scraps in Phoenix. But talking about Carmelo Anthony, here's a guy that, at least it seems like right now, the Knicks aren't going to buy out. What are some of the options if teams are trying to trade for him outright? What kind of destinations could we see Carmelo Anthony land?
Well, I think it's going to be based on who kind of falls short with some of these free agents. Could it be maybe a team like Boston if they miss out on Gordon Hayward right now? I think the next couple days here, is going to determine where the market is as far as can maybe the Clippers maybe jump back in the mix. That number is certainly high, though. You're looking at $26 million this year, $27 million for the following year, and I'm not even putting into that $8 million trade bonus, which I think we don't have to pay attention to right now. And I say that based on, remember what Chris Paul did last week, where he reduced that number from 3.6 to $600,000. So there's certainly a way you can finagle with the numbers, but I still believe it would be through the buyout market. But with new management, I think we're kind of in a wait-and-see mode.
Hey, Bobby, thanks. Good job. Look, that was good, guys. That was a jump debut. Nice job.
We're going to be talking to him a lot more.
I know. I'm loving it. Keep those emails coming. I'm loving it. I feel like I'm part of a front office right now. Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Amin, did you see what the Lakers are doing? Nothing so far. Nothing so far. Hanging back with their sacred cap space for next year.
He loves that word, doesn't he? Rob Pelinka loves using that term, sacred cap space.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that, is a good sell job. We can tell that Pelinka is selling. He's pretty good at selling. But up the coast, I just want to go back 1 second. Did you see that chart that was just on there?
Can we throw that back up?
Let Joe Lacob worry about that.
But seriously, these are numbers like we've never seen before. And I want you to look at two columns. That first column is fine, but the second column, that's just tax. That's not going to anybody but the NBA.
Oh, my gosh.
And we won't even worry about 2021. Just look at 2018-19, $90 million in tax. In tax. That's like
cost of doing business.
That'd be like $3 million a team. Thank you very much. And then look at that jump in 2019. $200 million higher in tax than they are in salary. I understand that they have lots of money, but the whole point of this repeater tax, which is hitting the Cavs this year, is it's supposed to force competitive balance. It's supposed to force the team to break up. Will this team be able to be kept together? They say they can, but wow, look at those numbers.
The problem is, again, people say, oh, but the team value has gone up since they bought it. Sure, but that's not cash on hand.
Yeah, that's a theoretical
That's like
value.
I bought my house for $70,000. Yeah. It's worth $700,000.
Well, that's pretty good. Where do you live?
It's theoretically.
Good job, Amin.
I live in Cleveland, no.
Oh, man.
I bought
it wouldn't be $700,000, I'll tell you that.
But that extra $630,000, theoretically, is not. I don't have it laying around. It's all in the house, so it's all in the team. And Brian,
Plus, they're building an arena, which they're self-financing.
Yes.
And I know these guys have a lot of money. And I know what you're saying, Ramona, earlier today about let's not worry about the owner's money. But when we're talking about a historic team being tried to keep together, and none of this is breaking news, but now that we see it you know.
Black and white.
Oh, my God.
Or
Just,
black
yeah,
and
but guess
red,
what?
I should say.
You know who wants to stay together? Those guys.
Sure.
Like, those guys have talked. They've
but they're
all
not
gotten
taking-
on the same page.
they're all talking.
Everyone's taking less so they can stay together this
don't
year.
$3 million
Yeah.
less.
Don't mistake me explaining what the owners feel like for their defense. I'm not defending billionaires from spending money. I'm just telling you, everyone, all of us, everyone out there has a level of affluence that someone else looks like, whoa, you got all that money? And we could say, hey, I paid $100 for a stick of gum, and there's someone out there that said, but you can afford it. Well, this is not a big
There's
deal.
literally people who pay like extra money for like gold-plated chocolate.
Sure.
Like, you don't need gold-plated chocolate. You don't even pay $100
We've
for
never seen
that.
spending like this in the history of American professional sports. And so just the point is, oh my God, are the Warriors great? And now the point is, oh my God, are they going to be expensive?
By the way, you know what happens to that tax money, that $90 million? It gets divided to all your competitors who didn't go into tax.
Consolation prize.
But I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
they.
Can't buy the Larry O'Brien trophy with it, though, I mean.
No, you cannot.
You can buy a lot of gold. You can buy more gold.
Yeah, but look, what we saw there is that they haven't even talked about paying Draymond Green and Klay Thompson yet. Okay, that's when things get really expensive.
That's what those numbers indicate. Those numbers that Bobby put together there indicate keeping Draymond Green and Klay Thompson and signing them the way they just signed Durant and Curry. And I think it's just fair to ask, will they be able to stomach it?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it again. Let's put it up again. And again, look at the luxury tax increases. So next year, it's heavy. And by the way, their payroll this year was $100 million. So they won their title with a $100 million payroll. Next year, I don't even have to be a math wizard. It's 80% more.
Right.
But just when you talk about dynasty, these new rules are anti-dynasty rules. And there is the.
Well, remember yesterday when LeBron James put the tweet out saying that Steph Curry should get $400 million, like Steph Curry's underpaid. So instead of Steph Curry getting that money now is being redistributed to the rest of the teams that are not over the cap.
Right.
And those teams are using it to redistribute it to players who are not as good as Steph Curry.
Yes.
That's right.
And that goes back to the BRI split that we talked about earlier. I have a question for you guys, though.
Oh.
Looking at that graphic, let's throw it up one more
I
time.
like it.
How many rings is it worth, right? That money. How many rings is it
Well, they've
worth?
already got 2.
They've got 2. So how many? At what point do you say, if I don't win this many, then it's not worth it?
Well, we'll see.
And getting back to the topic of the other teams in the West, other teams in the league, it's now Star Wars. Like, the only way to compete with Golden State is to get a team with as many stars. So you see teams like the Lakers in their sacred cap space for next year. You see Houston trying to go, okay, we got 1, now we got 2. Let's see if we can get 3. Oklahoma City has Russell and Paul George.
Which is why some teams are saying, look at those numbers. Let's wait out because we know they're not going to be able to pay it, and we'll be ready to go in 2019, 2020. Because there are teams doing that. And it's the teams like the Rockets that are seeing those numbers and flying in the face of it and say, you know what, we're going to go now anyway.
All right, guys. Make or Miss is next, just moments away. But first, we show you Hassan Whiteside's free agent recruiting pitch via his Snapchat. Enjoy.
There was DJ Khaled.
Listen, you can walk in the cold, or you can ride in the heat. Or you can ride in the heat.
Beer.
You can eat strawberries there, too.
Strawberries and beer?
Yeah, that works. No, that's kind of gross.
Hey.
It's a Make or Miss League, guys. And
Yay.
Make recruiting. Hassan Whiteside is on Snapchat trying to lure players to the Heat, touting Miami's warm weather and beachside foot baths. I mean, do you like Whiteside's pitch to free agents?
You know what? He doesn't waste time telling you about what the other teams in town are doing. Hey,
Yeah.
come check out our baseball team. He tells you about real things that you can experience every
They
single day.
didn't take Hayward to Marlins Park. Is that what you're saying?
No Osuna highlights. I like
This banana boats never miss, you guys.
This is
They
amazing.
never miss. I'm down with banana boats anytime. Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade were out on the open water when they spotted an unmanned banana boat.
Yeah.
Ryan, is this an omen? Should we doubt about a Super Friends reunion?
Maybe we should doubt it because where are the Super Friends?
Yeah.
The last 2 years they've been on the banana boat together. This year, no friends on the banana boat. By the way, Gabby and Dwayne have been on vacation
I love
for
it.
like 3 weeks. God
3
bless
weeks?
them.
It feels like 3 years.
just
I mean,
Their
just
Snapchat
messing
never
around,
stops.
just messing around the Mediterranean.
Sometimes we get a little more on the Snapchat than we bargained for, too. Fake perseverance. 61-year-old Calvin Roberts was drafted by the Spurs in 1980, but didn't make the squad. Now, as a grandpa, he wants another crack at making an NBA roster. I mean, are NBA dreams ever really dead?
Let me be the well-actually guy. He wants to make an NBA Summer League roster.
Okay,
and you know what?
okay.
I, for one, would think it would be a great gesture. The Spurs should do it. They should just have
They
him
probably
again.
still have his rights. And what's his cap hold? I mean, let's get Bobby Marks back on here. What's his cap hold?
Like a Disney movie in the works already.
Whatever the minimum is.
Make headshots. Jump alum and Big Three baller Steven Jackson is playing
Yes!
second game with the killer threes today, and his
Don't get
headshot
hurt,
is
Jax.
tremendous. I mean, does Stacks have the greatest headshot ever?
Absolutely, man. That's
So
my
good.
guy right there, man. And you know what?
good.
He was on broke the news that Chauncey was coming to play today in Charlotte. I don't know how it went, but I just, as Brian
Stacks,
just
don't get.
Welcome to the NBA Free Agency Special, presented by Kia.
What do you guys think? I mean, Ryan, do you think emojis help or hurt a team's chances of landing a big fish in free agency?
Well, it worked for the Clippers 2 years ago.
I'm just really amused by all the rings that people are claiming that they had nothing to do with.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
Mr.
good.
Whiteside
I like that.
doesn't have
I like
any of
that
those
sound
rings.
like
Neither does Isaiah
It
Thomas.
is.
That's
like,
true.
It's been done. It's been done. You got to be original.
No, don't stop him. Keep going.
Hey, welcome to the Jump Free Agency Special. This is day 3, presented by Kia, alongside Amino Hassan. That's Brian Windhorst, both NBA insiders. And I'm Ramona Shelburne, and in my ear is Rachel Nichols, in spirit, telling me what to say. Hey, day 3, and we have not seen the kind of deals that were made last year. Remember last year when everybody was freaking out and NFL players were saying, whoa, can I get some of that kind of money? Look at all these teams with that much cap space left that have not been spending it. I mean, what is going on here? Why are these teams holding back?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that work. Last year, we had a massive jump in the cap to the point where we had more than 2/3 of the league having $20+ million in cap space, the ability to go after max guys. This year,
Look at those contracts last year. Look at those. Everybody got paid.
Not pictured Joakim Noah.
We don't talk about the Joakim Noah contract. Just don't mention it.
the number was too big for the screen. No, but you know, the truth is, there were only a limited amount of star players, and everybody had money, and there was a pressure from every franchise to say, look at what we're doing. We're really active. We went and got so-and-so or such and such. And so that flurry happened. Little buyer's remorse, plus a cap that went up a little bit, just a little bit this year,
Yep.
and actually less than what was originally expected, plus not as many stars, plus next summer having more stars on the market. All this is a witch's brew.
Brian, but here's the thing. Like, people always come up with ways to drive down the market, right? They do that to anybody in any walk of life. We've all been through this with our own contracts, right? Anytime that somebody can drive down the market and make the players feel like they can't get as much money, they will do that, right? So this summer there's so many free agents that are still out there. Let's look at who's still out there. Which free agents are still out there, guys?
There's a couple of big-time stars still out there. What about that
There
guy,
we go.
Kevin? What
There
about
it
that
is.
guy, Kevin Durant? He's not bad. He's still out there.
How many meetings is he taking?
0.
Oh,
Gordon Hayward, Paul Millsap. Look at these names.
Let me just say that there has been $1 billion in new contracts given out, so it's not like the market's dry. It's just not as hot as it was a year ago, and by putting that out there, I think it makes it seem like it's slowing down. But you know, Kyle Lowry got $100 million today. Serge Ibaka got $65 million today. But what we're not seeing is the long term. I think what
That's
we're really
right.
seeing is the shorter term deals. Teams are worried because of those contracts we saw at the top that are now being trying to get rid of. The Lakers are trying to get rid of Luol Deng. They already got rid of Timo Mozgov. And also next summer, we have a really good free agent class next summer with a couple of big-time stars. And the salary cap is going to stay kind of flat.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's some names. But I do want to point out something else, Ramona, because I have heard people talk about collusion, the idea that they're trying to keep salaries down. There's one thing that protects the players from this, the BRI split. The BRI split basically says you guys
basketball-related
basketball-related income, which is how they calculate the salary cap,
Yep.
right? And so with a 50-50 split, 50% of the revenues that come in have to go to the players. So what happens if everyone signs and somehow that ends up, because there was collusion, only being 47% or 48%? That little slosh goes back to everywhere. They redistribute that 2%.
Let me tell you why there's no collusion. Because these owners have egos.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and they want to compete with each other. But I still think, you know, there are some guys right now that are a little bit worried, that are a little squeezed and a little bit
calling
worried.
their agents every single second.
For sure. And
Hey, where's the money?
I was
Why
back-
isn't Orlando coming in?
I was
Where's
back
my
to-
leverage?
I was back to Kyle Lowry. You know, he gets a beautiful contract today, 3 years, around $100 million. But he thought he was going to get more. He thought he was going to get more years and more money. So some of these teams out there who haven't spent their money, they're like, you know what? Now we're in the zone that a lot of the top guys have gone off the board. Let's just hold back. You may be able to get a guy at a discount, and those discounts were not available last year.
Well, fortunately, we have a team like the Sacramento Kings who is willing to play ball and give everyone leverage. Because you know what they did today, according to Chris Haynes and Mark Spears? They made a max offer to Otto Porter. He's a restricted free agent. Washington said they're going to match any deal.
$106 million.
However, that's the first restricted free agent we can see that's got a max offer sheet. So I mean, you said it yesterday. Sacramento's always willing to do this. Maybe one of these times somebody doesn't match. What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. And the slow start to the free agency period notwithstanding, we all expected throughout the year that Otto Porter was going to be a max player. So this can't have come as a surprise to the Washington Wizards, even as the first 48 hours have been, as we said, not as exciting as they were a year ago. This actually helps them, to me. Because if you know he's a max player, if you're the Wizards and you offer him the max, it's 5 years, 8% raises. But if someone else offers him the max because they're using cap space, they don't have the bird rights, they can only get 4 years, the raises are smaller, 5%. So basically, Washington's like, perfect, go ahead and offer it. We'll match on that, and we just save ourselves some money.
However, the Washington Wizards franchise has never paid the luxury tax. Now, they've said that they're going to match. And maybe they will. And by the way, there's a new rule this year, unlike in years past where the restricted free agents could make a deal and then have to wait for a week before signing, and then stuff happens with secret meetings and stuff like that. This year, Otto Porter can sign the offer sheet ASAP if he wants to do it, and then they would still have a week to match. But I want to see if the Wizards match this offer, because this would take them into the luxury tax. Now, maybe they will. Maybe they'll match it, say thank you very much for doing it, Sacramento. Congratulations to Otto, and move on. But considering they still have business out there with John Wall, who has not signed the 4-year extension they gave him, John Wall's got to be paying very close attention here. And it's interesting, Sacramento wouldn't have given this out unless they thought there was a percentage chance that Washington wouldn't match. Is it 2%? Is it 27%? We're going to find out.
Rebuttal. If I'm Washington, Otto Porter's a guy I believe in. We know he, as a young swing player, can guard 3s and 4s, can play the 3 or 4, shoots 3s, defends, all that stuff. I match the deal, and then I can figure out other things. I got a guy like Markieff Morris on a very affordable deal. He's a productive player. Someone will come taking him, and that can take me back below the tax line.
Maybe you're right. We'll see. I just want to see. I'm someone who wants to see it to believe it, and I will wait and see it. I
think all three of us are in the crew that says we like when the billionaires spend their money. We like when the owners pay the extra tax, right? Like there's this idea that those whatever they're saving, I know there's a salary cap, whatever they're saving, it's really just the owner paying the tax.
Yes and no. For one time, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to take management side.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I'm just going to look away. I don't even want to see it.
Call the medics.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not about the money. A lot of times it is. But sometimes it's not. Because in this new collective bargaining agreement, actually the last one that we signed, not the one that we're on now, they introduced this concept that luxury taxpayers have less freedoms. No sign-in trades. Smaller, mid-level exception. These are real things that can handcuff a team from improving further. It's the kind of stuff that, why the Cavs, people say, why don't the Cavs just sign and trade for Paul Millsap? They can't. They're a taxpayer. And so when you make a decision, like the Washington Wizards, to be a tax-paying team, it's not just, oh, we have to pay this money out. There's also other ramifications.
Well, speaking of the Cavs, you know who's not tweeting out emojis? Who's actually sub-tweeting like Jay-Z lyrics and making everyone wonder if he's talking about his owner?
Calder?
Yeah, that would be LeBron.
Oh, LeBron.
Dave McMenamin reported that LeBron is not taking an active role in free agency this year. Right? He's not going out and texting everyone, tweeting, recruiting for them. They obviously got Kyle Korver returning on a nice contract. They just re-signed him, and that was the impetus. That was one of their main goals in free agency going in this time. But what do you think? Where's LeBron's head at right now? You're our foremost LeBronologist over there.
LeBron is being active.
Oh, okay.
I mean, LeBron is not calling Jose Calderon to close that deal.
He's a nice guy.
Jose Calderon, God bless, getting that deal on July 1st from the Cavs.
That's a Warriors beater right there.
Wow. No, I think that the point is, he's not out there trying to appeal to some of these lower-level free agents. Did LeBron try to talk to Jimmy Butler and try to talk to Paul George? Not try. He did talk to them about the concept of them playing together if the Cavs could pull off that trade. Yes. Does that fit into the box of recruiting? Well, they weren't free agents, so it's not really recruiting. But LeBron has been very active in the Cavs offseason. LeBron doesn't understand why the Cavs haven't named a general manager yet. That has gotten him.
Chauncey's not playing in the Big Three league, right?
That can't be good news, right? If you're a Cavs fan, you're saying, well, where are we on this GM search? Our number one target would rather be playing 3-on-3.
Well, and also the guy running the team is off at the White House with the Cubs and President Trump.
Look, to me, this is way more concerning for the LeBron-Dan Gilbert relationship. That's the part that concerns you if you're a Cavs fan here. Because, the idea here is that LeBron's saying,
there's the guy that should be running the Cavs right now.
Oh, look at him.
How do you do? We got any reports yet?
Well, he's not hurt. And that's the good news.
Okay.
But going back to the Cavs, the other thing here, again, is when you say, hey, David Griffin, thanks for 3 great years, but we don't need you. Look, you can say a lot of things about Griff's tenure. One thing that we know, he was a deal maker. We talked about yesterday, Pat Riley talked about, we make deals around here. We get it done. We get our man. Think of a target that the Cavs had over the last 3 years that they weren't able to accomplish. They got them all. They got everyone that they wanted. Everyone that they targeted, they got. And right now, you talk about what Jimmy Butler went for, what Paul George went for. These deals just slipped through the Cavs' fingers. Why? Because their point man wasn't there.
And we talk about like a deal maker. Let's go back to that Houston deal with Chris Paul. Remember how we all did the math and we heard the first names in and we go, well, that's not quite right. The money doesn't add up. See what Daryl Morey did where he did all these trades for these guys? Six trades to get guys on non-guaranteed contracts just to make that math work.
I will say this, because I think this bears being pointed out. With the Kyle Korver contract that the Cavs signed today, which, by the way, guarantees they're bringing back their core of their roster, Dan Gilbert is committing to $43 million in luxury tax for next year. Now, I know that in the grand scheme of things, what does it matter how much the owner pays in tax? Because does that help the team on the court? But what I think it's showing is it's not like Dan Gilbert's not doing anything. He is still very invested in this team. He is still sending a message to LeBron and other players that he is spending and that he wants to make this a championship team. They weren't able to make that Paul George trade. I've talked to all kinds of parties involved with it. Everybody's got a different story as to why they couldn't pull off the three-way trade with the Nuggets that would have landed them Paul George. Ultimately, it didn't happen. Does that ultimately become a fatal, misjudgment that they weren't able to do it? We'll have to see. But I don't think it should be fair to look at the Cavs and say they're not doing anything, because they are.
But you lived through this once before, Brian, right? You were in Cleveland when LeBron was in his last years there, right, in 2009, 2010, before he left to go to the Miami Heat. And it was a very similar story that they couldn't pull off. They tried Antawn Jamison. Remember they tried to
They traded for Shaq and Antawn Jamison, but that team did not have Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. This team does. And I agree that going forward, the Cavs are in a tough position. But I also think that to say that they're not doing anything is also not accurate either.
It's not doing anything is a little harsher, but it's still not in the direction that one would hope. And the idea is, again, you let go of someone who was very productive, and now you're taking trips to Washington, taking pictures of the optics are terrible. And all of these kind of sloppiness or loose ends, they add up. Maybe it's not any one particular thing, but at the end of the day, a year from now, LeBron's going to sit back and think of his future, and he's going to say, well, what direction has this organization taken in the last year? Is it up or is it down?
Well, stick around, because the Jump Free Agency Special is coming right back with a guy who makes texting into an Olympic sport. That's Adrian Wojnarowski. Look at him, texting away. Look how fast those fingers move. Join us next with more on the Raptors bringing back Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka.
The NBA Free Agency Special